I sometimes find it disrespectful when...
Yeah, am I going to be like retired like vlogger?
And it is like a growth journey as a creator as well.
Yeah, I think the first thing I got was like a like bean bag.
Wow.
Hey. So what is your name and what type of content do you create?
I'm Steph Kaluza, and I create mainly lifestyle content around like routines, resets, and like home life.
Oh, cool.
What about you? What's your name and what type of content do you create?
So I'm Charlotte Emily Price, and I create travel, body acceptance, mental health kind of content, maybe lifestyle to sum it all up, but those are sort of the main things I talk about. And I also have a podcast as well.
Okay, cool, nice.
So what led you to start creating, and what has been your experience so far?
So it started back in 2020. I'd started renting a room in a flat, and just for fun I created like an Instagram account, which at the time was called Oh So Rented, because I was renting, and it was just to like document like decorating my flat and like showing like renter friendly hacks and things like that. Never intended it for it to be like a job or to make money from it, and from there I sort of grew a little community, and then TikTok came along, I think. And that kind of allowed me to like really speed up the growth of my platforms. And then, fast forward to last year, I was able to leave my full-time job to make content creation my full-time. And it's kind of crazy to think that it's been 4 years since I started it. I always feel like it's a couple years when people ask, but actually like a lot has happened over that time. And like I said, I'd never intended at the start to...
That's quite nice.
And I feel like that's how it's happened, in a more organic way, without too much stress on making money or making it into a full-time job. Overall, it's been a positive experience the past 4 years. What about you? When did you start creating, and what's been your experience?
So I started a blog in 2014, so it's been quite a long time for me. I think I felt pressure to start posting like in the beauty and fashion industry. I think back in the day that was sort of like the main focus for a lot of like girls online, so I felt like I had to fit in that way. And then over time I got a bit of confidence to start like YouTube and Instagram, and I just really enjoyed creating. And then over time I feel like my platforms have really like evolved and changed with me. Like as I've gotten older, I've realised I sort of want to talk about more things that are happening in my life and probably other people's too, and create sort of like a real bond with others. I guess I've just always had a like affinity to social media and creating content, and then that has just changed over time to suit like me and who I am now. And it's nice not posting what I do to fit in anymore. Like it feels just so exciting to be posting as me.
There's not a pressure to sort of fit into a certain box. It's a bit cringe, but also who cares?
Exactly. So off the top of your head, what is your favourite brand collaboration, and in a few words, why?
I feel like my favourite one was probably with Sonos. I feel like it was quite a surprise when I got that one, because I was at that point in more like home decor, and my content was like quite focused on that, and that was like when I started branching into more lifestyle brands. And I feel like as a tech company, to reach out to you to work with you is like I don't know, makes you feel good about yourself, like and it was just a really fun campaign to work on. They were super flexible creatively, and it ended up like turning into like a sort of short-term partnership, which I feel like is like definitely the funner types of partnerships to work on.
The flexibility I feel like is key.
Definitely. What about you? What's your favourite brand collaboration and why?
I think when I worked with Nike a couple of years ago, because I always felt like my body type wasn't really represented in sort of like the gym activewear space.
Yeah.
So for them to sort of reach out to me and ask me to be a part of like a big campaign where they were going to be like showing the photos displaying them in shops.
Oh, wow.
I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I just sort of had like a massive, what is going on moment,
Yeah,
because I was like, I'm just this random girl from this random town. Like, are you sure you've picked the right person? But I think that is probably my favourite because it means so much to me, and I always think about it still.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
Do you prefer complete creative freedom or a big budget?
I feel like, creative freedom is definitely top, but it depends on the context of the situation, because we do have bills to pay at the end of the day, so it is nice to get bigger budgets, but if your content isn't going to be authentic and the brand's very prescriptive about what they want you to do, it's not going to benefit you in the long run in terms of like making money. Like, I feel like, just seeing like big numbers isn't always a positive way to look at content creation, because your followers trust you and are looking for genuine opinions and like the style of content that they usually see from you. So I definitely value when brands, it doesn't have to be like completely flexible, because obviously they've got boxes to tick, but when they take your feedback on board, I think that's important. Like, I've worked with brands before that are just like almost shut you down a bit when you come back with stuff and saying, look, like, I can do it like that, but it's not going to perform well and people aren't going to like it, and then we're probably not going to work together again because you didn't think that the content did well. But I feel like a balance of both, because again, you as creators, we do deserve to be valued, like
for sure.
monetary wise as well.
If we can get both.
Both.
That'd be great.
Good answer. What about you?
I think ideally both. But creative freedom, I guess, is gonna keep your audience engaged long term. Like, I think it's the smartest option to pick the creative freedom, because then, like you said, the collaboration is going to be authentic to you. It's going to perform better. Your audience is going to be watching and thinking it fits seamlessly, and everything is just a lot better if you're authentic to your original style. And it's not, I don't think it's worth it, even if you're just going to get one big paycheck, then you've lost a ton of your followers because you're posting something random that doesn't go with your style.
I agree with that. And you can tell, I think, I don't know, as a creator, when you look on other people, you can sort of sense when someone's done something maybe with not the right intentions. And I think like followers and like people that engage with your content are becoming more aware than they used to with how like the creator industry works, and that they need to sort of like ask questions to the people they follow about how genuine their intentions are.
And I feel like I've definitely made mistakes in the past where I have done that, and I thought I was going to get a lot more creative freedom than I have. Like, I think I just assumed it, and then like back in the day when I first was started to get paid, and I was like, oh, this company is really cool, like I use them all the time, and then suddenly the actual campaign is nothing to do with what you post about, and it just doesn't work. So
I feel like you can, like, near the start of your like journey, you can get quite excited, like, oh, this brand's reached out to you, like, I'm going to do everything they want me to do because I want to please them. But it's like a two-way partnership. Like, they need to please you just as much as you need to please them, because they need your voice.
And it's like a growth journey as a creator as well. Like, I feel like it's unrealistic to be like, oh, I've never taken on anything that didn't fit and suit me. Like, I mean, obviously that is probably the case for some people, but exactly like you said, like when you're creating something that you're so passionate about back in the day, and someone's like, oh, we want to pay for something, you're like, oh my god, this is amazing, and then you're like, oh wait, this doesn't kind of work. So you kind of learn that over time, and that's okay. You know, in any other sort of industry or job, you're allowed to grow and make mistakes. So, you know.
Agreed.
So, do you prefer a tight turnaround or a delayed payment?
I feel like tight turnaround I'd rather than delayed payment. But I don't know, it's a hard one because I feel like in this world, like a tight turnaround is a lot different to say like if you worked within a company, a tight turnaround. Because I've worked like I used to work in social media marketing for a brand, so I'm quite used to deadlines and things like that. But I think when you work internally in a company, there's a lot more kind of freedom, or I think they understand that people don't work on weekends and you only work 9 to 5, for example, so like things can be pushed back. But when you're a creator, I feel like brands sometimes think that you're just sat waiting for them, and maybe you're not working on other stuff, and they're like, oh, like, you know, can we have the content by tomorrow, or like, oh, we've sent you these amends, can you send them by the end of the day? And they don't realize that you've got like a load of other stuff on. So yeah, I think in that sense a tight turnaround can be quite hard, but it's never nice waiting for money.
Have you had any bad experiences with that, delayed payments?
I've not like horror stories. I think I signed with an agency April last year, so I've been quite lucky having them, that they're really good at dealing with that kind of thing, the whole admin side of chasing, and even like legally, like what you're kind of entitled to and stuff like that, and what's in the contract. I feel like if I was without a management, I would probably struggle with like chasing payments, because I feel like management sometimes gives you a bit more authority when it comes to that. What about you? Would you rather tight turnaround or delayed payment?
Definitely the tight turnaround. I feel like I thrive off a deadline. It makes me feel like I'm back at school. I'm quite a teacher's pet, so I feel like I'm like, oh, cool, I've got a deadline to work towards, I can do this. Whereas delayed payments, I've had way too many stories where, like, I mean, something recently, I got paid and it was 8 months late.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that's pretty crazy. So I'm like, no to the delayed payments ever again. I'd way rather do something in 24 hours than
that makes sense,
waiting ages for a payment.
And it's weird because I've always, when I've been speaking to other people about kind of delayed payments and like what if you charge for like late fees and stuff like that, because I know some people do, but I feel like as a creator we're put a bit of a disadvantage to not be able to do that sometimes, because it might ruin your brand relationship. So it's where if you were like a tradesperson or something like that, it's kind of quite standard that if you didn't pay someone's invoice, they're going to add like extra charges, because it's quite like business. But I feel like when you have a personal relationship with a brand, it's quite hard to like chase them down like without ruining the relationship.
I sometimes find it disrespectful when like brands do delay the payments, especially if they've combined both of them and they've asked you for a really tight turnaround and you're like working so quickly to reach this deadline and then suddenly you're not being paid for months. It just seems quite disrespectful and devaluing as a creator. Or
the worst, I mean, it's not worse than delayed payment, but what really annoys me is when the brand's got a tight turnaround, so they're like, they want the content by the end of the week. You send it like how they ask for it, and they take like a week plus to even respond. And it's like, so you've like rushed me to do this when really, you know, you could have had an extra week. That grinds my gears.
Yeah, because then you're panicking and rushing and maybe haven't created the content that you want. You know, like the perfection around the content isn't where you want it because you've rushed it and made it work, and then you're like, oh, I could have done what I actually originally wanted to do. So what is the best editing app and software and why?
Okay, I feel like I'm not an expert in this.
Same
my content is very simplistic in terms of editing. I don't do anything super advanced. That's just my style. So I use an app called InShot for basically all my video editing, and like Apple software for any photo editing. I did get a MacBook last year to try and separate doing stuff on my phone to like a laptop and have it as a workspace, but I just find that really hard. I feel like when you work in social media, you have to be quite reactive with content.
For sure.
So even just like that extra task of like transferring things onto a laptop and like moving everything around for such a simple video is quite like a waste of time for me. So yeah, I just use like a on a phone editing software. Yeah, what about you? What's your best software or app?
I'm such a creature of habit. Like, I wish I was one of those people that like, I need to learn this new editing software, but I'm just, I go back to the things I know. I used Video Leap for a while, and then now I'm just on CapCut. But I think weirdly, because I did YouTube before Reels and everything came about on TikTok, I love editing on my laptop. So I transfer everything onto my laptop and use the CapCut desktop version, which they've just released. So I absolutely love that and use it all the time, and it's free.
I feel like all the software I've used is free. There's definitely some good paid for ones, but I think it just depends on the style of your content.
True.
And I guess doing like longer form YouTube, maybe you need a few more like extra things that you can't get on basic apps.
Smartphone or DSLR?
Smartphone, definitely for me.
Me too.
I just like the style of how it shoots, the ease of it. And I feel like people resonate a lot more with my content when it's sort of like natural looking and something that they would take a picture of, or how they would shoot a video.
For sure. I love watching other people's DSLR content though. I'm like, so crisp and good quality. But for me, I think because a lot of my content is just my life and everyday stuff, it kind of makes sense to use my smartphone and it looks the best.
I feel like it's really niche dependent. If you were in a category where people value like super high quality, or do you even for YouTube, when you do your long form, do you shoot on a smartphone, or do you have a...
I use just a like digital camera. Like I don't use like a fancy camera.
I guess that's easier, right? Because it's
for sure. So do you prefer long form content or short form?
So I prefer creating short form content. I prefer consuming long form. But I feel like, because I started on Instagram and TikTok, I'm used to doing short form. I've experimented with YouTube, like doing longer form YouTube videos, and I feel like I've shot loads, and then I get to edit it and it's like 5 minutes long, and I'm like, how are people making half an hour videos? Like, what do I talk about? I feel like it's a lot more effort putting into long form, whereas short form's a lot more reactive.
I sometimes weirdly feel though when I do long form content for YouTube, it's almost easier to edit for me because I don't edit it down too much because I quite like the realistic style. And whereas when I do my short form content, I tend to pop on more edits, overlays, text and things, and it actually tends to take more time with me. But I think I'm the same as you. I prefer creating the short form because I find it quite fun putting everything together. And then consuming the long form. Like, I love YouTube. I'm still a YouTuber.
That's where I started off, like back in 2012, like watching all the beauty vloggers. And, like,
me too.
I really wanted to be one.
What is your best kept editing secret or hack?
I would probably say don't delete any of your raw footage, so that you've always got it for future, especially with short form content. If you want to like engage with certain trends on TikTok and Instagram, and you don't want to have to reshoot new content, it's great to have like your raw footage so you can re-edit into like a montage, or like, you shot something that was relevant for like this sound trend. I feel like that saves you a lot of time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of deleting things and being like, I should have saved the raw footage of that or backed it up. For me, I don't know if it's editing as such as a hack, but using tape, I keep seeing this on TikTok, using tape on your phone if you're doing transition videos and you want yourself to be in the same position. People using tape to go around their body to make sure it stays in the same position, which is quite useful because I do sometimes do fashion content and that works really nicely.
What, on the phone?
So putting tape on your phone so you make sure you stand in that sort of frame.
Oh, that's cool. I've seen you can get like apps that do something similar that like mask you.
Yeah,
but yeah,
probably a lot smarter.
But that's free, and that's a cool tip.
If you could get rid of one platform, which would you be willing to lose?
This changes on a month-to-month basis. I feel like, my main two platforms that I use are Instagram and TikTok. I'm also on Pinterest, and I love Pinterest, and I never get rid of that. I feel like at the moment, Instagram, maybe. I just feel like there's too much going on there, and like I feel like sometimes I lose myself a bit as a creator, and maybe don't post stuff that I would want to post, whereas I feel like platforms like TikTok, you can be a lot more like candid and like post authentically without worrying too much, whereas I feel like Instagram's still that place where you've got to like have a perfect feed and like, you know, engage with all like the new features because they seem to have every single thing on there. What about you? What one would you get rid of?
I think currently, just as of this morning, I would get rid of TikTok just because a brand boosted one of my videos and I just get a lot of hate because of my body. So it's just can be quite a lot, but that's only from today. So I love TikTok usually.
I've had those experiences. Even when brands have boosted my videos where I've not been in it at all, like, and it's quite like a video that you wouldn't find anything wrong with it, but people seem to find things wrong with it. I think I did like it was like when I did it was one of my first like kind of paid partnerships with a brand, and I did a like how they wanted me to do a house tour, and they were going to boost that, and it had like a voiceover of me like explaining through my house, and I thought it was fine and the brand liked it, but the comments were just full of like such horrible things, and like at the start of like my journey, like I felt like it was quite traumatic. Like I'm not a very thick-skinned person,
neither am I.
and like I feel like sometimes people think because you've put yourself online, like you deserve to like receive hate and receive comments like unsolicited.
I think that is the most bizarre thing to say. Like you should expect people to hate you because you're doing something you love online. Like it doesn't like, make any sense.
I can have an opinion on you because you posted that, and it's like you wouldn't say that to somebody you saw in the street. That's what I always think.
For sure. It's usually the anonymous accounts.
Yes, always.
So usually me getting rid of a platform is genuinely to do with people being horrible. And I want to keep them all. What are some challenges that you face as a creator?
I feel like creative block. I feel like it's something, the longer I've been doing it, the more I experience it, and that combined with like a bit of imposter syndrome. I think because as a creator you work on your own a lot and you're coming up with your concepts and your ideas, and sometimes you question yourself whether it's good enough, or like you're comparing yourself to people in your niche. They're doing this and they're doing better, or they're getting these brand deals and you're not. It's quite comparative, and I feel like it can get you down a bit because it's quite hard to separate that from you as a person, and that this is like kind of a bit of a job now, and not like you shouldn't value your work how you value yourself. Like they should be two separate things. So that's probably one of my biggest struggles, I think. What about you? What challenges do you face?
I think just the mental toll that it can sometimes take, like you said with the creative block, like trying to think of new ideas, trying to stand out, but also staying true to like what your niche is and what you believe in. Like, I find I compare myself a lot success-wise to other people. Like back in the day, I used to compare myself visually. Like I think that was more of a thing. And then these days I'm like, I'm not posting as much as her, or I'm not doing as much as him. You know, I feel like I beat myself up quite a lot, and it does take a mental toll. And then I think a lot of guilt comes from it too. Because I'm like, I love this job. I wanted this job when it became an option to do it full time. So why am I feeling all these feelings? Like, get over it. And there's a lot of guilt that comes with that as well, and then that kind of goes in with the mental health side of things. So I think maybe a bit of comparison culture in terms of success for me. What are some of your techniques for growing and engaging with your audience?
I'd say I feel like communicating with them regularly, whether that's like in DMs or like on your stories, I think it's really important to know like how they're feeling and like what they're enjoying from you and what they want to see. I feel like when you create content, it should definitely be stuff that you enjoy doing, but yeah, if you want growth and success from it, you kind of need to realize what people like. Just like some basic analytic, looking at analytics to see like which videos are performing well and which aren't. I feel like it's quite easy to get like wrapped up in the creative process and like ideas that you've got. But yeah, for growth, it's important to see what people are receiving.
Yeah.
What about you? What are some of your techniques?
I think maybe for growth, it's, I guess, finding trends that you can relate to your niche. You know, like a certain sound's gone viral. Like, is there any way you can incorporate that into some of your content that you were having coming up, and linking it back to like your core values and your core your brand, your personal branding. And then in terms of like techniques for engaging with audience, I do quite a lot of like polls and question boxes on my stories on Instagram, and I feel like that's such a nice way to like build community, and that's like the reason I went to Instagram in the first place, is because I had no friends that like loved the same things that I did, so I like wanted to find them around the country. So yeah, I guess that is like my main thing when it comes to creating on Instagram, is like having those conversations, like the important conversations that mean a lot to me, and hearing other people's opinions about them too.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
Are you with a management or are you an independent creator?
I am with a management, since last year. And I feel like I've been quite lucky with my management. I feel like speaking to other creators, like it's quite hit and miss. Every agency is different, or even people in the same agencies have different experiences. I personally have really enjoyed it. Again, I feel like I thrive with like the creative side of being a creator, but the admin business side I'm not so great at. I'm a bit of a pushover, so I struggle with negotiating and like knowing how to value myself, and having a management has like completely changed that. And even like going forward, if I in the future I decided to be more independent, I think having had a management has given me a lot of knowledge for how to pitch myself and price myself as well.
Yeah.
What about you? Are you independent or do you have a manager?
I have a manager. I've been with them for a few years now, and I was with management before, so it's sort of all I've really known since I started doing it as like a part-time and then full-time job. And I love it for the connections I've built through it, and being able to go somewhere, specifically with my current management, like being able to go to an office and see people on a daily basis is quite nice. And being able to bounce ideas off someone, because there's only so much like a partner or friend can listen to you talk about like social media sometimes. So yeah, it's nice to have someone to communicate with on a daily basis about like your work, and not feel lonely. And then the admin side is amazing too, because I would be like 10p for a reel if it was me. I just don't value myself enough.
Yeah. When I had like the first meeting with my managers, and I think it was sort of when we were just discussing, and they were like, oh, so what do you charge for this? And I said, and they were like, oh, that's low. And like, I feel like because there's not many like open discussions between creators sometimes about that. You don't realise until you speak to people who are really experienced and who've like managed lots of different people.
Yeah, and learning some of the like lingo and things as well. You know, like I didn't really know much about like boosting back in the day, like when brands decided to put paid behind a video on TikTok or Instagram, and what that means and how to price those kind of things, and usage and exclusivity. So being able to talk to someone about that and understand it a little bit more is great.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you work on building creator relationships?
I feel like the main part of that comes from when I go to events and things like that. Like you said before, it's quite a lonely industry, and it can be quite hard to connect with people. And like personally, although I'm an online person, I hate texting and stuff like that. I much prefer like in-person interactions, and that's how I like build relationships with people. So I feel like going to events and like community things with other creators is like the best way to meet people. And you never know like what small interaction could lead on to something bigger. What about you?
Yeah, I think the same for me, to be honest, like making sure I can go into events that align more with me, because sometimes over the years I've found that some things maybe aren't the best situation for that. Like a lot of evening drink style events, I don't really find connection with people as much as like in like during the day sessions and more intimate events where you can actually have conversations like over a table or doing a class or something. You know, I think events are the way, but making sure that you go to the right ones, because I've definitely felt lonely at events too.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, there's definitely certain types that are a lot more harder to socialize in, even though it's a room full of like hundreds of people. At the start I used to say yes to everything, because it was sort of like I must go to every opportunity, and just in case this like brings in the next thing. But I feel like you have to have a bit of a balance, because you can stress yourself out a bit, and I feel like that plays into a bit of the comparative part of the industry. Like, there's some kind of cliquey areas, I think, within certain niches, and events can kind of bring that out in people.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of school sometimes.
Always ask to bring a +1.
Yeah,
that's
me
too.
I'm like, I won't enjoy it if I don't have someone to make me feel cozy.
Yeah.
Do you think you have a healthy relationship with social media? This is a good one.
I think so. I feel like because I've worked on a brand side and a personal side, when I worked in a brand, I sort of learned how to switch off, because it was my day job. Although I wasn't really interacting on a personal level, like through a personal account, I was on Instagram and TikTok like all day 9 to 5. So I learned to switch off, and that sort of like transitioned into my like creator life now. Definitely not perfect. I feel like it's impossible to have a good balance with it. But like I enjoy it a lot, and I feel like I'm quite good at blocking things. Like if I don't want to see certain types of content or certain types of people, like blocking works. What about you? Do you feel like your relationship is good?
I think overall, yes. Learning techniques that help make it a healthy space, like having boundaries with when you use your phone and stuff, which is probably my worst trait when it comes to having a healthy relationship with social media, because I feel like I'm just waking up on my phone, going to sleep on my phone, and I think that's where the problem lies, maybe the more addictive side of it. And then I guess the hate comments that we were discussing earlier, probably the best thing that I've done to make it a healthy space for me is finding someone who I trust to have access to my social media, who can just delete it so I don't have to see it and sit with it.
Yeah, that's
which has
really
been really
good.
helpful for me, actually, because sometimes I just sit there and think about it for days and days, or screenshot it and like sit there and read it, and I can obsess over that. So I think I'm trying my best to make it as healthy as possible.
It's definitely a hard process, and no one's perfect at it.
Sure. What is your creative process when receiving a brief and working with a brand?
So usually I would always write up from a brief, like a concept plan for the brand. Nothing like in too much detail, because I feel like if you give too much detail to them, they can pick you up on that when you deliver it. I'm like a written descriptive person, so I would just write out kind of like how the video will look, any examples of previous content that's done well that would work for the brief. I don't like to have too much back and forward with a brand. I like to kind of just get on with it, and then I feel like if a brand's reached out to you, they like your style of content, so I don't stress too much about that. What about you? What's your usual process?
Yeah, I think sort of similar, to be honest, like sending over my original concept. Sometimes I'll send over a voiceover or part of a voiceover to be like, this is kind of the vibe, this is where the product or service will fit into my video,
Yeah.
and how I'll display that like on screen. But like you said, if you go into too much detail, and then when you're actually delivering it and you're wanting to change things, and then they're like, oh no, you said you were going to do this, it kind of makes it a little bit more difficult, even though when you're filming you probably realize that this idea was better or something, you know. And sometimes I feel like your ideas come in later than when they originally ask, you know. Sometimes like I'll be like, oh actually no, this works a lot better and this is now trending, so now I want to sort of incorporate this into this. So yeah, I feel like it can change, so I try not to be too specific.
Yeah. How did you deal with transitioning to becoming a creator from what you did before?
So I was creating content at uni. I actually daily vlogged on YouTube my whole university experience of 3 years, which I actually don't know how I managed to do that now, because I don't have the time or energy when I was also doing my degree. But that was sort of where I started picking up sort of growth, and I was like, oh, this is random. I kind of just was doing it for my memory, and I was enjoying creating. And then lockdown sort of hit towards the end of my degree. I was doing forensic science, so I thought I was going to be in a science lab, and then suddenly I was in lockdown, I was in my family home creating content, couldn't really do any work experience, and then had a lot of sort of epiphanies with my body image and mental health, and was like, oh, I kind of want to like pivot my content to what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing, and I want other people to feel amazing in themselves. And then started posting that, and I had like a big growth spurt in lockdown. I guess everyone was on their phones, and it just sort of took off from there. I think I went from 10,000 followers roughly on Instagram to 80,000 in a couple of months.
Oh, wow.
So it was quite a massive change at the time, and I was quite like, what is going on? And then it became my full-time job, I guess, when lockdown lifted. How about you?
So I feel like similar timings, like the lockdown era kind of really elevated like my chance of becoming like a full-time creator. I worked for a home and giftware brand in their like marketing e-commerce department. So I was kind of experienced from a brand side of doing social media and like working with influencers on a brand side. And then I was doing my account sort of like part-time on the side. And it wasn't until I signed with an agency that I actually thought I could take this full-time. And obviously their intentions is for their creators to be able to quit their jobs. So yeah, I feel like I was with them for about a year. I can't remember, maybe 6 months to a year. And then I started to consider like quitting my job because I felt quite financially secure, and it was one of those things like, if I don't do it now, like I'll never do it. And I wasn't loving my job, and I wasn't really interested in like finding a new job in that industry, like from a brand side. I was quite deflated in it. And yeah, like if you'd have asked me a year before, would I ever be self-employed, I would have said 100% no. I loved working a 9 to 5 and getting paid and getting holiday and sick pay. And I would have never have liked the idea of like having your own business and being self-employed. But now I'm the complete opposite, and I don't think I would ever want to work for somebody again. It has its like struggles and downsides, but I think the flexibility of it is great, and it's quite empowering because you see a lot more value in like the work you're doing.
Having the control is quite nice, like not having to sort of answer to someone else. I think that's my favourite thing about it, is being able to do what I want to do in my own time that works for me. Yeah,
and it's sort of like family members and friends, I think, do ask like, oh, are you going to do this forever, or like what's next? But I feel like this time is quite like, you should sort of just enjoy the moment at this time, like as a self-employed social media creator. Like who knows in up to 5 years time like what this industry is going to look like. And I feel like I'm quite like grateful that I'm able to do this now, and I'm just enjoying every day. Who knows what I'll be doing.
I know that's a scary question. Like I think about that sometimes, and I'm like, let's just block that
Yeah,
out.
am I going to be like retired like vlogger? Like like is TikTok going to be full of like us like 60 plus like
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. So, a refurbishment tech brand wants to encourage people to buy expertly refurbished tech, such as smartphones, tablets, or headphones. Explain to the audience how the brand works by refurbishing tech and explain that purchasing from them is better for the planet, e.g., reduce CO2 emissions. Messaging to the audience should have a humorous tone of voice, think tongue in cheek. This or that, show the audience between how much you save buying refurbishment versus buying new. Quality, show audience refurbished tech doesn't mean low quality. Show how well the refurbished works and looks as good as brand new tech. Your deliverables are 2 TikTok videos, 2 Instagram reels, 2 dedicated YouTube videos.
Okay, so I think I would go for a TikTok for this one because I feel like that works better for my style of content. Going through a journey, like in a vlog style, I think would work best. And then, yeah, show me, I guess, leaving, heading to the refurbished tech company, showing how the whole system works, highlighting all of the features. I use a lot of text and pop-ups to make it engaging for the audience, which I guess would come on screen in regards to sustainability aspects and how the phones look brand new, but you're getting it for a cheaper price. These would definitely be on the screen in bold. And I would... this is so scary. What else would I do? I'm so sorry. Refurbished tech. Oh, I suck at this.
That was good.
I guess that's what I would do.
Yeah. It's hard.
I love how I've just like gassed myself up. Like I work so good under a deadline, and then I've got 60 seconds, and I'm like, help.
Yeah, that was good though.
Sorry. So this is for a streaming device to drive awareness, attribution and conversation for a range of key TV shows on a streaming service that you can simply plug into your TV and play. The brand wants you to communicate it has content for everyone across entertainment, sports and cinema. Mention your 3 favourite shows during the video in an authentic way. Content examples, a day in the life vlog ending with a night in watching your favourite shows, or a camera-facing content talking through the best shows, showing the streaming device, what the streaming device has to offer. The deliverables are 1 Instagram reel. Bonus, what would you charge for this campaign?
Okay, so for the Instagram reel, I would do sort of like a ASMR setup style video, which usually does quite well on my account. So that would involve like setting up the snacks for like a movie night, like the sofa setup, like the decor, like really creating like an atmosphere. I'd probably have a voiceover over the top of this, kind of explaining the key points that the brand wants to portray, like the favourite shows, and then there would be like key clips showing the branding of the streaming software and the films or TV shows that were included. In terms of charging, I think dependent on usage and exclusivity, if we're not considering usage and exclusivity, I would probably range around 3,000 for 1 Instagram reel. Yeah.
That was a solid answer. Well done.
So, what is your highest paid deal?
Ooh. I think it was £8,000, and it was for a panel discussion and an Instagram feed post.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's an interesting combination.
Yeah.
I feel like I've not personally done any panels, so I feel like that would be a difficult thing to price. Like, yeah.
For sure. I think the feed post got boosted as well,
Right,
which is why the fee was higher.
Yeah, okay.
Higher.
Is that something that you, like, with your management, do you usually get involved with the negotiating of fees, or do you tend to leave that up to them? And
I usually leave it up to them,
Yeah.
I think, personally, because I know I would underprice myself quite a lot.
yeah.
Personally. Yeah. How about you? What was your highest paid deal?
I think the highest one was 12,000, and that was for like a series of content. I think it was 4 videos like over a 3-month period, all on Instagram. And yeah, I really enjoyed that campaign because I love ones that are like spread out over time, because it kind of gives you a bit of consistent income for like X amount of months.
Yeah. And also authentic, it looks more authentic, I think,
Yeah.
personally, like having something
Consistent. I feel like, yes, you're not contradicting yourself with working with like competitors and stuff like that.
Sure.
And what was the lowest deal you've ever taken, and why did you take it?
I guess free.
Yeah.
Like just working on a lot of gifted campaigns when I first started out, because I thought it was cool that someone wanted to send me something.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably just taking on a lot of like product gifting back in the day when I was blogging and stuff, and writing up reviews that way. How about you?
Yeah, I think the same. Free. I feel like I was so excited when I first started getting like emails or like DMs from brands, because I mainly was in homeware. So like it was like homeware brands that would reach out. And I feel like, at the time, I don't think it was a mistake to not ask for payment, because I didn't know any better. And even like, I guess you started in 2014, did you say? So the like industry was quite different back then, and I can imagine rates and like the normalities of what you would do were quite different. But I feel like everybody works for free at some point in this industry.
For sure. I feel like my mum was like, this is a scam. When I got the first email, she was like, you're being scammed.
Yeah, I think the first thing I got was like a like bean bag. And I was like, oh my God, like I was telling all my family, like, I'm getting this free bean bag, like I can't wait. So it's kind of crazy to think like how things have changed and like how differently you value your work. And I guess for a lot of people in this space, like when they started, it wasn't for money and it wasn't to make a career out of it. So like accepting gifting in return for content didn't seem like a major issue. How do you negotiate with brands?
I guess through my management. Like sometimes they'll send it over and be like, oh, this is kind of low. Like, what do you think? Are you still happy to go ahead? And this is the highest the company will do. But that's about as far as it goes with negotiations with involving me. How about you?
Yeah, quite similar. My management will usually come with like, what the deliverables are and the fee that they've negotiated. Sort of, like when I started working with my management, we discussed about like average fees, so they knew what I was comfortable with and sort of like what earnings I'm expected, to know what they need to like reach for almost. But it's similar. Like I might negotiate with them if I think something's lowball. But I'm not great at negotiating myself.
It's nice to have the help.
Yeah, it is. What's the number one thing you ask brands before you collaborate?
I think it goes back to what we were saying about creative freedom, being like, can I do it this way, and going back with a concept. I think that's probably my go-to if someone comes with me with a specific idea. I'm like, oh, if you let me do it this way, is this okay?
Yeah.
Like, does this work? How about you?
Yeah, I think the same. Yeah, just sort of really getting the specifics of what they want down, so I'm not going to miss anything, because I feel like some brands are great with briefs, whereas some aren't. Even I've worked with some big brands that have given something really vague, and it's almost like, you don't want to assume something and then spend a load of time doing it, and it's not actually what they had in mind. Also, the deadline, I think, is important. I feel like that's something a lot of brands don't mention straight away. And I feel like that also does affect sometimes what you should charge.
That's true,
if they want it the same week. Or if they're expecting you to go... like, for example, some campaigns I've done, like the gifted product that's part of it, I've had to go get it from somewhere. Like if it involves that, like all those sort of logistical details that some brands don't consider, like is going to affect your production of the content.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes a mistake not asking those things, because I've signed stuff and then they've said, oh, can you get it in 2 days' time? And it's like, oh God, I should have asked that beforehand.
yeah, because again, I think a lot of them are expecting that you're just sat waiting
Yeah.
to like make a video for them.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Do you diversify your income as a creator, and if so, how?
Oh, how do I diversify my income? I guess brand deals specifically are, I guess, what brings in the most money for me. And then I do affiliate links commission that
Yep.
way. I think that's pretty much it. How about you?
Yeah, similar. I'm not that diverse with my income. I think I'd like to be more.
For sure.
Yeah, I think the main portion of my income is through brand partnerships. And yeah, I use Like to Know It as like my main commission link platform. I have like a blog as well that I don't really use that much, but it was more, yeah, to like incorporate commission links for people to shop. And yeah, get a bit of like SEO for my brand and my name. Yeah, I feel like those.
Yeah, I definitely want to be doing more.
Yeah.
Diversify. I just am lazy and haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm quite a easy please, simple person. I'm not like a natural entrepreneur. I feel like I've met some creators and know some people who are naturally like really entrepreneurial, which is like amazing, and I'm envious of that. And they've got like loads of projects that they're working on, and like have always got ideas of what they want to do next, whereas I'm not, I don't think that way. So yeah, I don't know if it's a bad or a good thing, but
Yeah, just do what's best for you.
yeah. What is your final message to content creators or anyone looking to become a content creator?
I think this is such a cliche answer, but you have to go for it if you want to do it. I know so many people hold themselves back, me included. Like I could have started YouTube and probably my Instagram a lot earlier than I did because I was scared of what people thought of me. And I hate everyone saying, oh, it's so oversaturated, you can't do it anymore. Like obviously it is way more saturated than it was, but you wouldn't say that about any other job. You wouldn't be like, oh my god, there's so many photographers or so many lawyers, like get rid of it. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. So I think you just have to give it your all, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons because you genuinely love creating content, and it'll flourish, you know?
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I feel like a similar message. Yeah, put yourself out there and don't doubt like the passion you have for something. Like it could be something really specific and you want to create content about it. That could be like the next big thing. Like social media develops every single day, so there's no point sort of like worrying about your ideas and if you're good enough, because you could be like the next big thing. And if you look at creators that you like aspire to be like or enjoy watching, I'm sure you'd never like wonder why they like didn't create content or did. Like you enjoy what they're doing, so there would be someone who enjoys you just as much.
What a lovely send off.
Awesome. Okay, give us the tea. Have you got any future exciting projects coming up?
Nothing crazy. I'm just working on my own podcast at the moment.
Cool.
It's Your Life, and I basically just interview a range of people from different backgrounds, and we discuss like really important topics, taboo subjects, and yeah, I'm just really enjoying it. It's sort of my little side project, side hustle at the moment, and I'm loving that. How about you?
Nothing major. I'm sort of like in the process, or have been in the process of switching, not to a new niche, but like moving more into lifestyle. Like I started off as like a home interiors focused creator and never like showed my face, to now like doing a lot more lifestyle stuff. So like, yeah, me and my management are working with beauty brands and just, different sectors that I've not worked with before, which is really fun. Quite nerve-wracking, but because I'm like, a bit imposter syndrome about, I don't know if people are going to unfollow me because I've started doing something different. But that's kind of quite exciting for me.
Yeah, amazing.
Where can people find you online?
So I'm under Charlotte Emily Price on Instagram, TikTok, Charlotte Emily on YouTube. How about you?
You can find me at Steph Kaluza on Instagram, Pinterest and YouTube. And on TikTok, I'm Stephanie Kaluza. if that makes it any easier. But yeah, I used to be so rented. I've recently transitioned and in a new era.
Love that for you.
Thanks. Thank you, Creators on Creators, for having me, Steph.
And me, Charlotte. Make sure you leave us a rating or a review on any podcast platform. And if you're watching, drop us a comment and don't forget to subscribe.
Wow.